Hey book besties, it's Gracie and today we're back with my favorite video to film every single month, and that is for this month's edition, August Reads. Oh my goodness, I didn't do as much reading in the month of August as I have the past few months, so the book tally comes up to a total of 12 books this month. Still, if a year ago I heard that I read 12 books in a month, I think that my eyeballs would have popped out of my head. So still proud of this, and we are going to go through and give you a non-spoiler edition of ratings, reactions, and if I think that you guys should or should not read these books that I read. There are some new arrivals, there are some that have been on my list for a while, some fun romance reads, and overall we're just gonna have a good time discussing these books. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Gracie and I do a lot of lifestyle and travel videos as well as book videos. Please leave in the comments down below any other book content that you like. I obviously do these reads once a month, but I just don't know really how I would do well at reading vlogs. But if there's just anything else, let me know in the comments down below. I'm always looking for more inspiration for book videos. I just love reading so much and I want to share that love of reading here on YouTube. And if you are new here, make sure that you subscribe down below so that you don't miss another video, and you guys can follow me on my other social medias to stay a little bit more up to date with everything that I'm doing. Okay, only one more thing. You guys should totally be friends with me on Goodreads. I love adding y'all, see what y'all are reading. You guys can see real time what I'm reading and my ratings before any of these videos come out. That's super fun too, so I will leave that in my description box. A couple of quick August Reads fun facts before we get this video started. I read 12 books this month, totaling up to 4,499 pages. The shortest book I read is The Match at 320 pages, and the longest book I read was The God of the Woods at 448 pages. I gave 1 2-star review, 5 3-star reviews, and out of those 3 stars, I gave 3 of them 3.5 stars, 6 4-star reviews, and 3 of those I gave a 4.5 star, and 0 5-star reviews this month. Oh, I got to pick up my reading game next month because I was hoping for a 5-star read this month. But like I said, 3 of those got 4.5s, which is basically a 5-star sometimes. And finally, another little fun fact I noticed, 4 out of the 12 books that I read this month, aka a third of the books I read this month, the book started with the word "the." Interesting. I'm not going to do these books in any particular order, but as always, no spoilers. You're not going to know anything more about this book than you would from reading the description on the back of the book or on Amazon. So let's get into it. What should I start with? We're going to start with the fantasy book because you guys know I have discovered my love for this genre this past year, and I have seen this book talked about so much, A Fate Inked in Blood. Let me just say, I've already heard there's going to be a second book coming out, and I just cannot wait. I don't know why when I picked up this book to begin with, I thought it was a standalone book, and then after I finished, I finally let myself Google, is there going to be a second, because of the way it ended, and there will be. So I'm very excited about that. This hardcover book is so gorgeous with these really pretty metallic sprayed edges, and I just love this. I honestly had no real idea what this book was about before I read it. Jaw was on the floor. This is one of the 4.5 stars that I gave. I thought it was so interesting, so well done, and honestly unlike any other fantasy book that I've read. And Freya, so brave. She is amazing. I was obsessed with this book, so let me read you guys a little bit about it. Bound in an unwanted marriage, Freya spends her days gutting fish but dreams of becoming a warrior and of putting an axe in her boorish husband's back. Freya's dreams abruptly become reality when her husband betrays her to the region's Jarl, landing her in a fight to the death against his son Bjorn. To survive, Freya is forced to reveal her deepest secret. She possesses a drop of a goddess's blood, which makes her a shield maiden with magic capable of repelling any attack, and it's been foretold that such magic will unite the fractured nation of Skaland between the one who controls the Shield Maiden's fate. Desperate to prove her strength, Freya must train to fight and learn to control her magic, all while facing perilous tests set by the gods. The greatest test of all, however, may be resisting her forbidden attraction to Bjorn. If Freya succumbs to her lust for the charming and fierce warrior, she not only risks her own destiny, but the fate of all the people she has sworn to protect. So good, so stinking good. It's a little steamy. You've obviously got that forbidden romance fact, and I just literally could not get enough of this book. I went through this book very quickly. I just absolutely loved it. I think it's a great fantasy. I just love the heroine in this book. You guys remember the book The Night That Ends with Fire that I reviewed last month for July reads? The heroines remind me kind of the same, as they've gone as like warriors into battle, but Freya is always known to be a woman, and of course above all that with goddess's blood inside of her, which makes her very powerful. So can't wait for the second book. I also want to read more of Danielle Jensen's books because I just loved her writing. But yeah, this book had me. The Wedding People. I have wanted to read this book since Goodreads announced that it was going to be a book coming out this summer that was very anticipated. loved the cover, didn't know anything about it, got it on Libby like the day the book came out, and didn't end up reading it obviously till August because it did come out in July. Let me tell you, I didn't know, like I said, what to expect with this book, and it was okay. I think I actually did end up giving this one 4 stars, but I think I was pretty close to giving it 3 stars. Just had to check in the book, and I am correct that there was no trigger warning in this book, but know that there probably should be, because toward the beginning, and I won't give a spoiler of what happens in the book or what character, there are some dark themes and subjects in the beginning. So just know that there's a lot of depression involved around that as well, but overall the story ends up like having, of course, its redeeming quality, and I did think that it was a good read. I'm gonna read you a little bit about it, and yeah, I gave this one 4 stars on Goodreads. It's a beautiful day in Newport, Rhode Island when Phoebe Stone arrives at the Grand Cornwall Inn wearing a green dress and gold heels, not a bag in sight, alone. She's immediately mistaken by everyone in the lobby for one of the wedding people, but she's actually the only guest at the Cornwall who isn't here for the big event. Phoebe is here because she dreamed of coming for years. She's hoped to shuck oysters and take sunset sails with her husband, only now she's here without him, a rock bottom, and determined to have one last decadent splurge on herself. Leave it at that, and that is The Wedding People. Overall, I think it was a really good read. I think I have better options from this past month, but it was a good one that I enjoyed. Moments Where the Bodies Are. I listened to this one as an audiobook this month. I love to listen to thrillers and mysteries as audiobooks. I thought this one was well done, had a little bit of suspense, mystery in there, and it involves 3 estranged siblings coming together to discover some family secrets. After their mother passes, 3 estranged siblings reunite to sort out her estate. Beth, the oldest, never left home. She stayed with her mom, caring for her until the very end. Nicole, the middle child, has been kept at arm's length due to her ongoing battle with a serious drug addiction. Michael, the youngest, lives out of state and hasn't been back to their small Wisconsin town since their father ran out of them 7 years before. While going through their parents' belongings, the siblings stumble upon a collection of home videos and decide to revisit those happier memories. However, the nostalgia is cut short when one of the VHS tapes reveals a night back in 1999 that none of them have any recollection of. On screen, their father appears covered in blood. What follows is a dead body and a pact between their parents to get rid of it before the video abruptly ends. Beth, Nicole, and Michael must now decide whether to leave the past in the past or uncover the dark secret their mother took to her grave. You guys, I did not know how this book was going to end, and that's when I think that these books do themselves justice, is when the ending comes. I'm like, oh, I did not see that. That is not who I saw as the person at all. So definitely some twists and turns. A great mystery thriller, and honestly a short read or listen. Sarah Adams, The Match. This was my first ever Sarah Adams book. It became available to me on Libby, and I ate this one up. I give it 4 stars, but actually would rate it like a 4.5. I can't wait to read the second book in this It Happened in Charleston series. Just a sweet love story between Evie and Jacob and a little girl who sets them all up. I just love how this book talked about service animals. Cute little Charlie here on the front cover, and I just thought that that was so interesting to involve in this romance story, and I ate this up. It's a quick read. Like I said, this is my shortest book of the month. It was just like the sweetest little romance you ever wanted to read, set in Charleston. So good. If you want just a fun light read, this is the one to go for. Melissa Bailey's Fangirl Down. If you guys watched last month's video, I read The Au Pair Affair, which is actually the second book in this Big Shot series, and this is the first Fangirl Down. It is a golf romance. The reason that I picked up The Au Pair Affair before I picked up this book is because I'm way more interested in hockey than I am golf. After I read that book and I read some of the reviews, a lot of the people came from after reading Fangirl Down and said that Fangirl Down was even better than The Au Pair Affair. So I put it on my list and I read it this month. I am going to be the first to disagree. For whatever reason, I liked The Au Pair Affair more than I liked Fangirl Down, but I also still really liked Fangirl Down. This is Josephine who ends up caddying with Wells. You can tell it's romance. They're gonna end up falling in love, but of course, around 3/4 in every single romance book, some sort of fallout. Basically follows the exact structure for a romance book, but again, just another romance. It's got a little bit of steam in it, but it's also got plot and background. I don't think it's an empty romance, if that makes sense. It's overall really good. Again, for whatever reason, I like The Au Pair Affair a little bit more. Still just a great little romance read, especially if you like sports themed romances. And of course, now that I've read The Au Pair Affair, I love the little hints into the characters in that book, in this book, like prepping you for book 2. Another green covered book, My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. I love a Christina Lauren book. I think that they're so great. This one was just kind of like a quick one for me. I read this book really quickly. As you can see with the text, it's a little bit bigger on the pages. Plus there's like literal text bubbles in here. So the pages actually go by a lot faster than they look. Honestly, I read this book toward the beginning of August, and honestly, I can't tell you one thing that happened in this book. I will have to read the back. Oh, okay. I remember now. It was okay. It was okay. I think I gave this one 3 stars just because I was like, It was a nice, easy romance book, easy read, but nothing stood out about this book to me at all. Like literally not one thing. Like I said, I didn't remember anything till I looked at the back. So do what you will with this one. I think like The Match and Fangirl Down and another one I'm about to show you guys is a little bit better if you're looking for a romance book, but quick read if that's also what you're looking for. Or like a mindless read, if that makes sense. Like you don't have to remember plot and characters. Like if you set this book back down and pick it up 3 months later, you probably still be able to enjoy it. The other romance book that I would suggest that you pick up before that one, this one was so good. Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This was my first Julie Soto book and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I feel like lately I have been reading romance books that have a lot of different themes in them. A few years ago when I really started reading, and of course it started with Colleen Hoover, I felt like all of her books just kind of mushed into one, except for like a couple stand out here and there, like It Ends With Us and Verity. But all the rest of her books, I'm like, they all seem like they take place in the same city. They all do the same things. It's all the same stuff. But this one is about a cellist and an orchestra in New York City. I just feel like that with service dogs, like there's just a lot of different romances going on now. But all that to say, I really enjoyed this one. Xander Thorne, just such a good character, and Gwen, those are the two main characters positioned on the front cover here. I love that the front cover is giving Ghost, kind of like with the pottery, if that makes sense, but with the cello on this book. A great romance, a wonderful romance, and I just loved every little bit of this. I'll read you a tiny bit so that I can at least do this book a little bit of justice. When professional and self-taught violinist Gwen Jackson plays, she disappears into the peaks and valleys of each song, a quiet passion that never quite explodes into pure emotion. Xander Thorne is the exact opposite. A cellist and a rock star, he's all about big emotion, but not even his 6'4" frame can contain his skill, his genius, and an attitude that borders on jerkitude. I did not read that. That is so funny. When Gwen is offered the role of first chair of the orchestra, something Xander has secretly coveted for years, their existing hostility goes up a notch. Suddenly, their box office dynamite and the fragile romance growing between them is in danger of being crushed beneath a publicity stunt. Just so good. Do yourself a favor and go pick up this book. The Spellshop. Okay, I don't know how I saw this book. I think I got it recommended to me on my Libby. First of all, purple sprayed edges on the hardcover. Love that. You can get that on Amazon. And this was described to me as a cozy fantasy. I thought, okay, I love things that are cozy and I love a fantasy story. When I first started to read this book, I actually gave up and I read a couple books in between because I could not get over the fact that Kiala, who's the main character, like her friend or her like little confidant, is a walking spider plant, like walking talking plant. Like that part of the fantasy I couldn't wrap my head around, was like that a plant was talking, that a plant was doing stuff. I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm like really annoyed by the fact that it can't be like another person and that it's a plant. But once I got past that and I really made myself read a couple chapters, and oh my goodness, it was correct. It was such a little cozy fantasy. I didn't know where it was going with the front cover, because the beginning you're like, wait, what even is this? How is she getting there? Let me tell you, I was like smiling from ear to ear reading this book. I actually looked up to see if this author had more books, and I really enjoyed it. So if you can get over Kaz, the talking spider plant, and you can wrap your head around a little plant talking, like being her little sidekick, you will really enjoy this book. I'll read you a little bit about it. Why not? Kiala has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, as a librarian in the Great Library of Elysium, listen, I may not be pronouncing these things exactly correctly, but let's go with it. She and her assistant, Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, have spent the last decade sequestered among the Empire's most precious spellbooks, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library goes up in flames, she and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry and head to a remote island Kiala never thought she'd see again, her childhood home. Taking refuge there, Kiala discovers, much to her dismay, a nosy and very handsome neighbor who can't take a hint and keeps showing up day after day to make sure she's fed and help fix her new home. Kiala risks the consequences of using unsanctioned spells and opens the island's first ever and much needed secret spell shop. Like a Hallmark rom-com full of mythical creatures and fueled by cinnamon rolls and magic, the spell shop will heal your heart and feed your soul, and I 1000% agree. So there's a little bit about the spell shop. Like I said, go pick it up. It's so cozy. I want a little cottage with a garden in the backyard, and I want to make jam all day too. So this was just so sweet. I think this will be such a fun cozy read going into the fall, so do yourself a favor and go pick this one up too. The longest book I read this month, God of the Woods. It's crazy because this title, like these words, I swear were only mentioned one place in the book. I don't know if I'm just mistaken on that. I also didn't know what this was exactly going to be about, but it was on Goodreads list of like highly anticipated reads. Put my name for it on Libby. I got it right away, and it was one of the last books that I finished this month, and I really enjoyed it. It was something different than what I typically typically read as a physical book copy. I like to read the fantasies and the romances and listen to the thrillers and mysteries, but I was in this book. I wanted to know what was going on because there wasn't much of like the mystery or thriller element right away that you understood really what this book was about. It's got a lot of timeline POV, so just know that it goes back and forth on time and characters a lot. So you kind of have to have your brain on reading this book. You can't just like go through the motions sitting here and reading it. Like there's different time frames and different characters that it goes between. Toward the end, I feel like it gets less and less between multiple characters as compared to the beginning. A really solid read, and I was very intrigued right up until the end. Early morning, August 1975, a camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing. Barbara isn't just any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp and employs most of the region's residents. And this isn't the first time a Van Laar child has disappeared. Barbara's older brother simply vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. As a panicked search begins, a thrilling drama unfolds, chasing down the layered mysteries of the Van Laar family and the blue-collar community living and working in its shadow. God of the Woods is a story of inheritance and second chances, the tensions between a family and a community, and a history that will not let any of them go. So good. And again, the best part about a mystery thriller, I did not expect the ending. And so great book. Highly recommend this one if you're in mystery and thriller. It might be one of the best books that I've read this month. 3 more books to go. Lessons in Chemistry. My mother recommended me this book. Austin's mom recommended me this book. I said, okay, I'm gonna pick it up. This is the first book that I read this month. I knew it was gonna be a bit of a bigger book to read. I enjoyed this book. I didn't know where it was going in the beginning. I thought it had a lot of great themes inside of this book. And honestly, it made me laugh throughout the book. So overall, I would recommend Lessons in Chemistry. It's about a chemist on the front, Elizabeth Zott, and basically how she finds herself as a host of a cooking show. But instead of being like Rachel Ray or somebody who explains cooking easily, she brings a lot of chemistry elements into it and inspires other women who watch her show to learn and to become knowledgeable in a lot of things having to do with chemistry, which women at the time weren't as educated as men back in the day. So I think that this took like the average housewife and made her show that she has more worth than just cooking in the kitchen. Of course, there's a lot more to this book, but I don't want to give it all away. And Lessons in Chemistry was a great read. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm really not. But when I hear this book so highly raved about on TikTok, on Reels, everyone's like, you need to go read this book. I got a couple DMs from you guys saying that you love this book when I told you or when you saw on Goodreads I was reading it. I think like this book made me really start realizing I need to look up what books I'm going to be reading. Addicted to You, I knew that it was a romance book about addiction. I was like, that's great. I've read some stories about people who have been addicted, but I didn't enjoy it. This is my 2-star read. I gave it 2.5 stars because I appreciated the author's writing style and some of the elements in this book, but this was just not my jam. This was just made me feel really uncomfortable. It was not something I enjoyed reading. Listen, I like some spice in my books. I like a little bit of spice. This was way too much, and I almost didn't finish this book multiple times. I told myself, I'm like, people rave about this book. Like, there's gotta be a bright rainbow at the end or like something, some reason I will justify having read this entire book. I will not be reading the rest of the series. I will not be reading anymore. I personally will not recommend this book to you. I'm just gonna let you look this one up because again, like I said, for me personally, like it just makes me feel uncomfortable. I will be open and honest about like liking spice and liking those things, but the themes and the things going on in this book were just too much for me. That's it. And if you enjoy it and if you like it, that is so great for you. This is just not what I expected at all. And yeah, it wasn't my favorite, so I'm gonna put her away now. Finally, the book that I just finished last night, I had about 160 pages to go in this book. I was like, I am not gonna be able to finish this in time to be able to count it in August, but I did. With like 30 minutes to go left in the month, I finished The Thursday Murder Club. I actually started this book as an audiobook back in July. I wasn't listening to audiobooks as much in New York as I typically do in Tampa, because I'll listen to them in the car, in the grocery store, different things like that, but I didn't really have a ton of alone time like I do here up there. So it kind of was a slower paced book for me. But then when I was heading to and from Disney World and some other stuff that I was doing, I was really starting to ramp up the audiobook in the last bit of this month. And the physical copy came in the mail and I read pretty much the second half of it. So like the first half was audiobook and I really love the narrator. And the second half, I basically read the book. I ended up giving this, I think, a 3 because toward the end, like I kind of forgot who those characters were. That might just be on me because I didn't read it in like a few days time like I normally do, because I started the first couple hours of this book in the month of July. So it had been a little while. It was so good. It was so witty and funny at some points too, because this book covers 4 friends who have started the Thursday Murder Club, and they are at a retirement community. I was gonna say nursing home, but they are still active and doing things by themselves. So basically older retirement age people just trying to figure out what to do with their time and start this club. So like some of those parts really made me laugh. I really was like, if my grandma was in a retirement community, she would totally do something like this. Like I told my mom on the phone, I was like, grandma would love to be in something like the Thursday Murder Club that looks at cold cases. But then murders actually happen, so they're helping the police investigate real murders. It was funny, it was great, but honestly like some of the nitty-gritty details and how it ended, I was like, it could have been better. But definitely enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the audio version. If you listen to audiobooks as well, the narrator was just hilarious. She had like the cutest little British accent. So that is the Thursday Murder Club and was my final read of the month. And that's it, all of my August reads, all 12 of those books. I can't wait to hop into my September reads. It is September 1st while I'm filming this. I have yet to pick up a book today, so I haven't started a book for the month of September, but I have got a lot of books on my Kindle through Libby right now. I am really looking forward to some of them. I'm gonna read you off a few of the books that I've gotten through Libby and that are on my TBR, and I'm hoping to have them finished in the month of September. Kristen Hanna, The Great Alone. I've heard such amazing things about that book. I love The Nightingale. I loved The Women. So this Kristen Hanna book is high up on my list. R.F. Kuang's book, Babel. I'm really excited to see. I don't know too much about that book, but I liked her book Yellowface, and I've heard a lot about Babel. The House in the Cerulean Sea. I heard that this book is really good, and the second book comes out September 10th. So I'm hoping to read this book and the second book that comes out, as long as I like the first one, in the month of September. I'm gonna pick one more. I just got Assistant to the Villain, which I know Apprentice to the Villain just came out. I saw a couple things about that on TikTok. I got Assistant to the Villain just downloaded yesterday from Libby, so I'm excited to read that this month too. We'll see what other books I get to in the month of September. I've got some travel coming up and other things, so I'm not sure how many books I'll be able to read next month. I obviously read less books this month than in the few past months, but that's because I was busy doing a lot more things with people rather than being at home, so I'm curious to see how September works out. Anyway, that's all from me. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe down below so you guys don't miss another video. And if you want to see what I'm reading in real time, how I'm rating everything, and of course just to be friends with me, add me on Goodreads. And I also just love to get inspired by what y'all are reading, and so I like to like scroll through my Goodreads and see what y'all are putting on there as you're reading through them. So yeah, definitely be friends with me. I'm having so much fun on there, and I will leave that in the description down below. I love you guys so much. If nobody has told you today, I am so proud of you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!